stats between the two teams, because this really highlights the gulf between them, the difference between these two clubs at the moment as they stand. Look at that. Manchester United only had one shot on target, and that was their penalty. Look at the attempts in comparison. When you look at this, what does it say to you?
Well, I think there was another stat flying about today in social media that Foden had more passes in 2 minutes than what Sanchez and Lukaku had. You know, and Lukaku came on in 57 minutes. But it just shows you the way that Manchester City set up. You know, and a lot of people, you know, speak about you pass the ball for this. They don't just pass the ball to keep the ball. They're passing it side to side, you know, looking to get in behind you. And as soon as they see that gap, as I said earlier, there'll be people like David Silva, Bernardo Silva. As soon as they get that opportunity, the forward pass, you can rest assured it's going straight into the striker's feet. And then they get runners off. You know, you've seen Aguero's goal, you know, 1-2, and then he's prepared to run into the box, and what a finish it was as well.
Andy, are they out of the title race? Is it too early to say?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna trouble City, no. I mean, I would expect them to improve still over the course of the season, and they should be knocking on the doors. Manchester United, my goodness, they should be knocking on the doors of the top four. Jose doesn't have a back four that he can trust. Jose needs that. The way he plays, the type of game that he plays. If you look at where he was very successful at Chelsea, whether it be Inter, Madrid, any of his teams have always they've had some very solid citizens, regular, competitive, durable defenders in those teams. And I know he spent a lot of money. And people will say, well, hold on, he's bought by Lindelof or whatever, and they're not good enough. Well, we'll see in the fullness of time. But he can't get the best out of... Jose Mourinho can't get the best out of himself or Manchester United without a back four that he can lean on. He don't have it. He doesn't have it.
Even when you look at the goals at the weekend, you know, Shaw's switched off at the far post. And so, you know, they've pulled the ball back, kept it alive. Yeah. Lindelof's been done with a give and go by Aguero. I mean, he's not a speed merchant, you know what I mean? He's been done by a give and go. Then it's gone above the goalie and you'll be thinking the goalie's got to do better. So you're absolutely spot on. The goals against Colin will be the one thing that Jose looks at and thinks, well, I've got to address this first.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time for this amount of games in a season. They're not negative goals as well, Man United. So it's not just a problem defensively. They're not scoring either. You know, so it's not a good recipe anyway.
Is he getting the best out of the players? And if he's not, how does he get the best out of the players?
Well, I think you'd be better speak to, you know, guys that have worked in coaching. You know, for me as a player, I think that when you're criticised as much as what, you know, a lot of the Manchester United players... Listen, it works for some people. You know, you can see Shaw's games came back. You know, he looks thingy. Anthony Martial looks as if he's, you know, 5 goals or 5 consecutive games scored. You know, so, I mean, they look as if some of them are responding to the criticism, but there's others go under. And then there's always the feud between him and Arjose and Paul Pogba.
Andy, I suppose it's the same question to you, because there was a heated discussion over the weekend between Graham Souness and Gary Neville about whose fault it is and whether or not Jose is getting the best out of the players. Do you think he is?
I think that comes back to a little bit about what I just said. I don't think his team could be as effective as it could be. I think they could be better than what they are. But Jose's teams, by design, have always been slightly negative, but they've been very successful in the way that they've managed to nullify their opponent, managed to combat their opponent. They've been very, very good at that. He's very adept at that. But I don't think at the moment, without that back four, he's got the tools in his bag to go and get more out of Sanchez, to get more out of Lukaku. It just appears that he doesn't have that. What he normally has is, that ruthless nature in his team, and then he's got some excellent players in the forward positions who go and do what they do, keeping clean sheets. When he's Chelsea time, 2-0, we used to, every weeknight on it, with that Chelsea back four, they nick a couple of goals, Drogba, Lampard, keep a clean sheet, and away they go. Can't do that at United, and it's maybe he's got to adapt, he's got to do more, but that's the way I see it.
Stuart, we just had a tweet on screen. What happens now? What does Jose and Manchester United do next after this defeat?
Well, I think we realised, and this was probably the final now in their chances of winning the title. I think all of us feel as though it's a Manchester City stroke Liverpool title to be won or lost, whichever way you look at it. For United, and bear in mind he won 2 trophies last year, you know, so credit to him for that. there's too many of his players at this moment in time, and made a little list here. You tell me how many of these are playing to the best of their ability. De Gea, Pogba, Rashford, Sanchez, Lukaku, let alone the back four that have shipped goals. So, and I've seen Jose's face on the edge of the pitch, maybe at Bournemouth, when in the first half they're letting goals in. He's almost scratching his head to realise how poor is the play of his team, you know, and you don't coach that, you know, too many. And maybe it comes down maybe to a lack of leadership potentially within the group.
You brought the name up, Paul Pogba. He wasn't playing this weekend. He wasn't in the Manchester derby. Let's hear what Jose had to say about it.
Of course, we missed him, and one of the things that break a little bit now, a lot. Our plan was the fact that Fellaini had to start the game, because Fellaini is not in conditions to play for 90 minutes. He was phenomenal in his effort, but he was not in conditions to do it. And normally, I bring Fellaini to this game in the latest part of the game. Imagine this game with Fellaini fresh, coming after the 2-1 with 25 minutes to go. That's an important thing for us.
I guess that's Jose Mourinho speaking about Paul Pogba and the fact that he wasn't playing. And actually, if he had been playing, perhaps Fellaini could have come off the bench and would have made a bit of more of an impact, because he's not fully fit either. We saw the impact that Paul Pogba had at the last Manchester derby at the Etihad, stopping them winning the league, Andy. How much of an impact would he have had this time round?
Well, there's no player in the country probably that divides opinion like Paul Pogba. I happen to really like him, and I think that without him, as we saw at the weekend, they've got very little to offer against the best in the middle of the park. Against Manchester City, if you can't cope in there, or if you don't have something that can alter the way that the game is going, then you're in big trouble. And he's the only one in a United shirt for me that looks like he can maybe change the dynamic of a game. He's the only one I think that can do that.
Stuart, let's have a look at these stats. This is Manchester United with and without Paul Pogba. I mean, they are an improvement when he's playing. Not that much, but shouldn't they be an improvement, considering how much he cost and the fact that we call him a world-class player?
What I would say, Laura, if he's playing to the best of his ability, he is a major, major asset in world football for any team in the world, make no mistake. But if he plays the way he did, how I felt he played against Juventus, against Bournemouth, against Newcastle, in the games that I've seen and covered recently, then, like always, when a player doesn't play, we think they're better.
It's true.
You know, he sat in the stand, and I think it probably hurt Jose because he had to start Fellaini more so than start Pogba, personally, you know. And, you know, Paul's got the ability to go on and be a world-class performer on Sunday against City. He's got the ability. But on current form, I'm not seeing it.
Chris, should Manchester United and Jose, should Manchester United release a little bit more money for Jose to go into the January transfer window and bring more players in? Where do you think they need to strengthen?
I think they need to strengthen all over the pitch. You know, you said there about, you know, City always looking to improve, always looking to get better. You know, as Andy said, you know, you take Manchester City's, when Man United beat them last year, Man City's back four was Danilo, Kompany, Otamendi and Fabian Delph. 4 of them gone. You know, and replaced by, you know, better players. Well, there's maybe players in the club, but, you know, the back four from the weekend, you know, there's a lot been made about Pogba. Man City's probably missing their best player as well, in Kevin De Bruyne. You know, so I think Pogba, you know, he does improve Man United individually, but I think collectively as well, because he does get a bit more out of Lukaku, Rashford, Martial and people like that as well. But, you know, you need to see it on a weekly basis, not just in flashes.
I'm going to ask you all this question. With the squad as it is at the moment, where do you think Manchester United are going to finish this season?
5th.
5th. What do you think, Chris?
It'll be difficult to get into the top 4. Arsenal, you know, been on a good run as well, but, you know, I'll have to agree with Andy.
5th as well. Stuart, what do you think?
It's 5th or 6th. I don't think the light from sort of Bournemouth, Watford, Everton, they can sustain a level of consistency. Then it's just a case of who else is left. That leaves you 5th or 6th, basically. And I can't see them going higher than that. The gap is starting to widen rather than close in many ways.